Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Stat Me Up for Anfield Index. It's that one, ladies and gents, the one after the Carabao Cup final. Whether you may be trying to ignore football altogether, whether you have piled over the aftermath, the wreckage, as me and Barts are about to, plug your ears in because I'm suspecting there's going to be a few stats we're not going to like too much of. But we are going to talk about that game where it's won and lost. And we're also going to talk about an international break, which, considering I despise international breaks, may actually be a good thing overall. I mean, Barts, it's about 24 hours or so since the game finished. How are you feeling about it all right now?
I think... Yeah, it's a weird one. You know, when you go to work the day after a game, it can either be a bad or a good. I think for me, it was a good thing. Just took my mind off stuff. But yeah, I think very early on for me, I was like, I just couldn't see how. That's a wrong thing. I've always backed our Reds, right? But I just thought early on, I didn't see anything. I thought at half time, maybe okay, fair enough. But yeah, I think things concerned me pretty much from the first 5-10 minutes. Things were not quite right. But, you know.
Yeah, it is what it is, people. I think there was a lot that wasn't quite right, and we will pull through the stats. We'll have a look at certain things like we always do. And I mean, we always talk about the eye test as ever, Bars. It just felt like a bad day all round. I mean, the first half, they were the better team. We were pretty poor. We weren't creating anything. You thought, okay, second half, that's where Slot will come to life. And I'm not really sure it got any better at all, to be honest. And they were 2-0 up before you know it. And yes, there was a bit of a surge at the end, a bit of a rally, if you want to call it that, with a goal. But from the eye test, there was only one team that deserved to win this. So I am intrigued what the stats will say on it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're like, I don't know where to start with this, right? Because it's such a. I think what I will say is I don't actually think either side played amazing. By the way,
Yeah.
I'm not knocking Newcastle, right? First trophy, God knows how long, desperate for it. All of the non-stat stuff, yeah, cool, agree with it. But to say they outplayed us or got the tactics right, which is what I've heard on various media, I think is a stretch. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Okay, so I think if you look at some of the top level stats here, a possession 60-40. Okay, I mean that's fairly typical. Newcastle don't. That is sometimes what they do when they play a big team. They do just go, do you know what, you had the ball and we'll try to forward it. Field tilt, that's 55-45. That's a little bit more than maybe the eye test would suggest. You might be thinking, okay, it looked fairly basketball-y, should we say? But actually, we had the edge on that. I mean, shots, yeah, we were outshot by 10 shots. That is where I think the eye test passes. Yeah, I think we had one shot in the first half, and they had about 4 or 5. We'll have a look at it in a minute. But penalty box touches, we only had 17. 17, which is normally an amount we have for half. And they had 26, which is way below what we normally do for a game. So just to give you an indication of, you know, I don't think either side played amazing. Big chances 3-2, so we actually missed a big chance as well as taking one. They scored 2 of the big chances. So XG, it's rare for us to get below 1 XG, 0.89. That's pretty poor for us, to be fair. And they got 1.8, so almost a whole one more than us.
Yeah.
Threat-wise, though, and this is why, you know, 2.5 for them and 1.3 for us. It's not a chasm. It's not a massive difference. It's not like you're sitting there going, because I'm 2-0, as you'll see, like a huge difference in what you did, right?
Yeah.
And the team got 2-0. And the way that, so like Gary Neville said, we got battered. Carragher said we got battered. And that's what I'm looking at. I take a little bit of a thing with that and say, really? Did we? So, you know, threat conversion, again, remember, anything below 50 is good defensively, anything above 100 is good attacking wise, So you got 71, right? And we got 60, we got 66, 67. So we say there's 5% difference in that, right? So for me, the way the game is portrayed would suggest that they were phenomenal, right? And their process was brilliant, and they got the right areas. But actually, they're not that too dissimilar. They actually should have done better. Yeah, they just didn't create. They didn't create from the threat where they had. Likewise, when we did create threat, we made a poor decision. Whatever you want to call it, poor touch, tired, whatever you want, whatever excuse you want to come to, we didn't make it. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't think there's a huge chasm. I'm not looking at Newcastle's win. They deserved it. I'm just saying, I don't think he was quite. Yeah, Liverpool got better. Past success, well below our standards. Like 79% for us that's not acceptable. Right? 85 is one of our benchmarks. Over 80 definitely. To fall below that's poor. Them that's kind of what they do. A long ball rate of 30% for them. Again, that's kind of their game, right? They that's what they do. So PPDO, strangely, we actually came out on top of that because we had so few shots on target that Pope didn't save one. Do you know what I mean? So we had 2 shots on target of half of them he didn't save. Right, so that's why the PPDO is really poor. Whereas they had 8 on target and only scored 2. Right, so actually the ratio that Kev saved versus Pope was better. So there you go. First off, I think you're right. 9 shots to 1. I mean, that's pretty horrendous in any way you want to wrap that up. Yeah. Big chances. 1 although we did have a big chance in the first half. Jota just after they scored. Puts it wide. I'd like to think another day, and maybe not this season, but when Jota's normally in form, he puts that away and it's 1 or half time completely against the run of play. But there you go. So 0.26 XG versus 0.7 to them. That seems about right test. But again, the way that you see that first half portrayed, you would have thought they were just piled on the XG. It didn't. 0.7 is below. That's below their normal standards, right? So pass success, pretty poor. 74 for us first half, 65 for them is pretty steady. Second half, though, as we said, how do we go about changing that? We had more possession, right? We did tweak. We increased it by 10%. Cool. Okay, penalty box touches. I mean, you can't get much worse than 2 in the first half. So we went up to 15 in the second half, right? So that's a huge improvement for us. They were steady Eddie 13 apiece. All right. Shots. So we didn't even outshoot them in the second half, 6-8. Okay. Shots on target, 3-2. Okay, so we still got out, but we got outshot then. And big chances, we still got done there, 1 versus 2. So XG 0.6 to 0.1, so a little bit closer, but not by much. Threat conversion, we improved a little bit and we decreased there. So little bits here and there. Long ball rate, let's have a look. We were shorter in the second half, they went longer, very standard. But I think the only period I can look at, and viewers have stacked me up regularly, we look at it 15-minute periods, is probably the latter period. So there's a period on the hour. I think CJ comes on around this time. If I correct or wrong in my thinking, he comes on. And that, I would say, is the only real time that things start to happen a little bit better. All right. We start tweaking things the other way. Not by a lot, but there's a few little signs where you go, okay, field tilt of 80 or 75, sorry. That's a considerable improvement in what we were doing. We were starting to keep them in that period of time. But unfortunately, we weren't really doing, the threat we were creating wasn't there. 0.41 is one of our highest for a period, but that's still nothing what we would do. And we only created 0.4 XG. So it wasn't until that 90 plus with actually years ago where we converted our XG, our threat to XG at over 200%, which is the highest of the whole game, to be honest with you. And we finally clamped them down as well to well below where we expected to be in terms of threat creation. But so it's a hard one. Unsurprisingly, the Monte Carlos have got Newcastle winning the game. 2-1 is actually bang on the score that Monte Carlo would suggest, and Newcastle win it in 63% of the time. Draws more likely than us winning. So overall, agree. Right, I'm not knocking it. I take a slight inference with the lines of battered or out. That kind of thing. I think is a little bit extreme. Pass maps though. I mean, viewers of this regular channel hopefully can look at that and say, what the hell what's going on, right? Because typically, I mean, I know you've been doing this long enough. I mean, you'll know that we would generally have a winger here, and we'd have two in here, and we'd have a bit of a double triangle on the either side, right? That is nothing like we've done before, right? And also, to be honest with you, I mean, Newcastle's wasn't that much better. So it's not. This is what I'm trying to say, but yeah, our pattern of play, and you'd like to think, okay, what happened in the second half? I don't know. It's CJ is at the centre of everything good, which is a bad thing, right? That's a good thing, but he's still got no links to Jota. He's got no links to Chiesa. This is over 5, by the way. Diaz is there a little bit, and they're trying to find Mo, but Mo is so wide in the second half, it's ridiculous. And then you've got Harvey on the right half space. Again, not bad position where you want Harvey to be, but typically when we've done this formation, Harvey's out here and Mo's been in here because he's more likely to score a goal, right? And then you've got Cody, who I have to say, I have to be honest with you, I don't know why he got wrong. I think you all saw against PSG, the boy can't run. So why he was picked over Chiesa, who clearly can run and have an impact, I don't know. So yeah, there's a few changes in there, but at no point in the game were Newcastle into their usual pattern. I mean, this is Newcastle second half.
Yeah.
So this is a team that apparently battered us. I'm just saying, if you look really hard at some of the data, for me, it's not there. Passing low for them, less than 5 passes every minute and touches. That's low. But then saying that, we're normally around 15 and we were around 10, so that's pretty low. Just to emphasise how long Newcastle's game was, they had no passing chains over 5 passes, over 5 passes. That's how long they went. So it was winning, set, long. Yeah, or into a channel, cross. That's how they played. Whereas we had some variety. We were a bit short for us. The other thing to note, I think Newcastle, and I will give them credit for, is that we didn't have any volume in the first half. Is how bad we were. We had hardly any volume in the right half space. Yeah, zone 14, might as well not bothered. And the left half space, I think Diaz had a little bit of moments here and there, but it was on his own, was he largely isolated. Second half, you remember these periods I said where we started to have a little bit of joy. Right half space, left half space, CJ operating in and around, but it just wasn't for any sustained period. You would have thought straight after half time, you'd have seen these kind of patterns right here, and then we would just carry that on for half an hour. It just didn't happen. Just to emphasise Newcastle's long ball rate, that's their first half, that's their second half, just hitting it wider and longer. This is straight down the middle. So, yeah, it's an interesting way, should we say. Threat, I mean, not that I can tell for that. It looks higher, but it's not. It's a low amount of threat created. It's in fairly similar areas. Newcastle fairly dirty of it because they didn't feel like they needed to attack, should we say, in those kind of normal ways. Defensively, this probably tells its own story. We were heavily on the left in terms of defensive actions. On the right, we were deep. Yeah, so that's Kwanzaa. But because Kwanzaa wasn't getting out, wasn't supporting a high press, we weren't operating anywhere near. I mean, this is normally Dom's area here.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing there. Nothing. That's really unusual for us. Even when we switch it up at any point in the game, we are not putting any defensive actions in around their 6, around their defensive left back and left back, which is just unusual. We just normally have good coverage. And to give you we talk about off the ball. When you win it, what you do. This is when our right back wins it. They are going the wrong way, those arrows, and they're going to the right areas. Normally, when our right back wins it, it gets played into his areas here. Yeah? They're not. They're going infield, off the pitch, back to another player, infield. The left's working. That's generally left back into left area, but not by half volume. The only passes that are trying to get into the right half space are from central, which is Graf's gone out there and 5. Can't remember that's Konate's right. I can't remember. But in terms of our right back, is normally putting the ball into these areas, just wasn't happening. And that's not even second half when we supposedly have better. Still nothing here. It's going infield. This is Kwanzaa. Not knocking the lad, but attacking wise, he didn't give us what we normally would require from our right back. It was just going infield, and then the infield was like, "Look, can you help me out? Can you play in there?" And it wasn't happening. So yeah, it's overall on and off the ball, we just didn't do our normal processes. I think whether that's a combination of factors, as in the tactical setup from slot, or Newcastle playing their normal level, should we say, it is however which way you want to look at it. But overall, we did deserve the game, but I don't think we got battered, put it that way.
Yeah, it's funny. You wonder almost if the way they phrase it, I'd have accepted like in the physical tussle, like Joe Linton ragdoll some of our midfielders at times in that regard.
Yeah,
and that's the physical nature of play. But yeah, it's even when you say it, and things like chances. We'll look at the disallowed goal they had, and Kelleher makes us say maybe that plays into it. But yeah, it's one of those where it's never going to go down as a classic, but I think it's still fair, as you said, to say the right team won, mainly because we played so badly. And those first half stats are easily the worst we've seen this season. There's no dressing it up at all whatsoever. 100%. I mean, we'll try and look at a bit of a positive, Barts. We always try and find something. The only real two I could come up with at all, who, like you said, CJ made an impact when he came on, no doubts about it. Chiesa and Elliott felt the two that were really making things happen, or at least something. I know Chiesa wasn't always successful, but it was energetic, and it is a hell of a finish as well. So what do their stats say?
So the top table here is on ball stuff, right? And I mean, we're looking for positives, so I'm not going to go into some of these figures on here. Feel free to look back at the video, zoom in and see where they are. There are some horror shows in there. CJ, as I would say, comes on 94% pass rate. That is easily the best midfielder on the pitch that day, right? That's an amazing level of ability to do that time and time again. 13 final third passes. Again, he was only on for half a game. I mean, that's just blows your mind how poorly everybody was first half, but still really good from him. Receives it really well. Creates 8.5% of our threat in 45 minutes. No, in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's really good performance of guys. In terms of Harvey, though, give the boy some credit. 93, not far off on the pass rate, 93%.
Yeah.
10 final third passes, that's really good for him. Key passes 2, so that's something that leads to an assist or a goal. Yeah. All right, so that's really good. He did get, he got 4 progressive passes as well. That's really good. So there are some things in here. He got 1 assist, he got a key assist, right?
Yeah.
Received it 100% of the time, so didn't give it away. And he created 17.5 of our threat. Now, largely that is because of the goal, right? It was a progressive pass. It was from 30 yards from goal. It's a through ball. They all count. They are huge multipliers on his threat, but he still played it, and he still won it and played it beautifully, right? Chiesa was the other lad that you said did all right, and I'm not going to look at his pass rate because that's scary low. But he did. He had the most amount of he had the best XG, not surprisingly, 0.29. Threat a little bit low. Then he had the penalty box touches must be the next one I got for that. Penalty box touch. So he was in the box 5 times. Yeah. So Chiesa got the most touches in the penalty box in 28 minutes.
Wow.
So of our 17 penalty box touches, Chiesa had 5 of them.
Yeah.
And he played for 28 minutes. So I think. Yeah, overall, he also dual rate of 80% for Chiesa. Not bad. And you might think, did he compete with many? Yeah, he competed 5. Which, again, he's up there with most other players. The top was 7 in midfield. So, that's not bad for someone to come in for 28 minutes and do a lot of things right. So, and you're talking about Was he on the ball? Was he trying to make things happen? So he was having a touch every 0.61 of a minute. So a touch every 0.61, which is decent. Not as high as some of the others. Jones, to give you an idea of how he's match boning, was having nearly a touch every minute, which is really good. So that's 0.98. That's good. So in a low quality game. Some of the other subs will just leave alone. But yeah, so I think there are some little shoots there, should we say, where maybe that is something that Slot needs to reflect upon. It's okay having a small body of players, but there is going to come a point where those guys cannot keep doing what you need them to do.
Yeah.
You can't expect the same 11 bar the keeper to go for 120 minutes against PSG, and people say, 5 days off. PSG is a really high intense, really high concentrated game. They don't come and play at the weekend at Wembley. You've travelled a day, you've got disturbed sleep, you've got 2 players on Ramadan. Yeah, all of this stuff, right? For me, this was, you want to put your best team out, but I think there was a lot of reasons why you could have played more of the subs. And equally, if you weren't going to do that, you could have involved these boys a lot more early in the season. There are other games, so that these minutes, so Grab particularly has played a stupid amount of minutes this season. Yeah, there have been opportunities where he didn't need to, and he still played 80, 90 minutes. So I think if Slot takes anything away from this season, it's that for the Premier League, if you're going to go for more than one competition, you have to seriously consider about using the whole of your squad. Because I think we're now seeing, I'm quite thankful, I don't know about you, we've got an international break and we only have to win 4 games and won the title. You know, because if it was anything longer, I'd be a little bit like, ooh. So,
Yeah. I think it is kind of the final point I wanted to steer on the show. And I think you're absolutely spot on with that. There's the fear that, and I can see criticism of players. I don't really want to criticise Grav at all because he's just spent right now. It's quite clear from the start, like he's done. He's exhausted. He needs a break. He needs to be on the bench at least for the next game. Maka looked exhausted. Jota, there's evidence where he was he's been terrible the last 3 times, whether he's not fit or it's just whatever it is. Gakpo, as you said there, is clearly not fit. It is making no sense whatsoever. I mean, it didn't make sense the other night to bring him on and not have him take a penalty. I just assumed that's why he was there in the first place, or that high up the order. And like you said, considering what we saw from Chiesa and Elliott, it's even more startling that Gakpo got on ahead of them. Realistically, that's a bit of a worry. And to me, it's almost if it wasn't a case of break glass because there's a big emergency and we're 2-0 down at Wembley, would even Chiesa or Elliott have come on? It just is a bit strange. I mean, we're hoping, like you said, Arne Slot learns his lesson a little bit and takes this forward. During this break, Barts, normally, I'll be honest, despise international football, not interested in it at all, not my bag. Fair play people are, but just don't care, simple as that. However, is this break almost just even, and I know players are going to be playing because of the competitive games, unfortunately, rather than friendlies. Is it still good, do you think, though, from just refresh a little bit, a different environment, not in the title race, to almost have that and then come back a little bit? Or is it more a case for you like, nah, these players have been playing big games and we're worried?
I am concerned about the minutes they'll play. I'm not going to lie to you. The chances of Van Dijk, I don't know who Holland are playing, but the chances of Van Dijk not playing both, is it both 2 games, 3 games in this break?
Yeah,
might be.
The
chances of him not playing a game are very low, right? Whereas we could do with Van Dijk over the rest. And more importantly, Grav and Cody just not going. That really give them a break, give them a bit of a recharge. But the other problem you've got is the backups. So I don't know whether Japan are playing, but
don't know. Nah.
If Japan are playing, Endo's got to travel across something like 8 time zones, play a game, go again to play, get on another plane, go across another time zone, play a game, then come back, right? So when we talk about utilisation of your subs are getting knackered for playing international football as well. So I don't know the schedule. I'm like you. I pay very little attention to international football. If you love that, you crack on. Go and knock yourself out. Nothing will ever be the 86 World Cup for me, so crack on. But in terms of, I have a concern that some of our better players will play. And the caveat I will have with that is that everybody else will be in a similar situation. Arsenal's injury issues are not going to get any better. Like, they're still not going to have a 9. Saka might return, but that's a risk because he's not going to be fully fit. It's a pretty serious injury he's had. So personally, that would be I'll be gradually bringing him back in. So if he plays anything more than half an hour very quickly, you're questioning what they're doing there. Mo and Kanata will be out of Ramadan by the time we come back to Premier League football. So that, although they're both super fit lads, it'll just give us that little bit of edge that they might
feels big. Yeah,
feels big. And the other key element, and again, please guys, I'm not knocking Kwanzaa, right? The kid did all right. But our system is primed for our right back to be able to pass the ball to Mo. If you cannot do that, we have a problem. We cannot operate as a team. Trent, I looked it up because we're doing some stuff ready for the pod for UP. Mo's received 208 progressive passes over this season. Do you know what percentage of those balls have come from Trent?
I'd have gone like probably 2/3, even, so like 66. Yeah,
it's not as many as that. It's 30%, but the next highest player is 12 with Van Dijk. 12%.
Jesus, right?
So the drop off is huge,
massive.
If you don't have that right, Bradders is in the middle there, but if you don't have that link, and the games that we've won when we haven't given Mo the ball, you can count on one hand. Yeah. Saturday was one of the first as well. The lowest amount of touches we got beat. Right, so I think until that's how next season we can talk about tweaks, assists, and the rest of it. But right here, right now, our system is primed around our right back getting the ball to Mo. Whether you go through midfield or whatever, if you can't do that, we cannot operate. So my hope for international break is that Bradders doesn't go, gets fit because Trent's around fit, right, and that Mo comes back, doesn't play international football, and with our right side starts working again. If we can get that, we can get the 4 wins we need, and we can win the title, and then we can all celebrate, look forward to the summer, and see what the summer brings. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it would be fantasy to think that any of our starters will get a break, because I just don't think they will, because every manager's got to win their games, right? But my hope is that the players that don't go will recuperate, including Bradley, and we can actually have a functioning right side for the running.
Yeah, so those could be the two real positives. By the looks of it, as far as I'm aware, Chiesa, well, I know Chiesa's not going. He didn't get called up by Italy. Bradley can come back as well. That would be a huge boost. Harvey Elliott, fingers crossed as well, because that Joe Linton foul was horrendous. So he's okay in 5 minutes. Mo, just as well, viewers, we're just having a quick check there. He plays 2 World Cup qualifying games. The last one is on Tuesday, so that's 8 days before the Everton game. So maybe if he's back by sort of Wednesday, as you said, Ramadan's finished, that would be the hope that he's ready to sort of steal into that. And he has a very, very good record in the derby, as we know. So there are a few bits of hope. We never thought we'd say maybe an international break isn't the worst thing in the world, but there we go. Because I tell you what was the worst thing in the world, Liverpool stats in the first half. They got a bit better in the second, but you've seen it, people. You saw the pass maps. You saw the numbers. There is very little to shout about. And whilst it's wrong to say Newcastle battered us, it isn't wrong to say the right team won the game. The stats show it. The eye test show it. So, yeah, maybe a break is a good thing. All it leaves me to say as ever is, Barts, for the analysis, the insight. You didn't quite lift me, but at least we were honest about it, and there is little shoots and things to hope for in the break coming forward. So it is much appreciated as ever.
My pleasure, as always.
And ladies and gents, that was another Stat Me